first time in some cases, at least for some team members, that they will be actually in the locations that have been identified. And we're asking them to document their observations, not only quantitatively with numbers, but also comments, and I've shown a piece of a sort of a form here that people have filled in. And so we have additional data gathering, of course, that goes on continuously, but including stakeholders. We hold workshops then to review that information and narrow the pool of sites and routes to carry forward. Now I have 3 examples here that just illustrate a few of the issues that come up. In the case of a generator project, this was a solar project, the generator gave us a site for a substation, said, how about if you go here for your transfer station? The territory looked like that in the bottom left of the picture here. And they considered environmental constraints, proximity to our lines, the Gentai line route that would connect their generator facilities to that substation, and a few other factors. And we looked at it and said, that's not enough. In this case, we were starting with a single site. So we weren't looking at a number of them, but we looked at it and said, it's not enough. We have these other criteria that have to be met. Usable space and shape from our point of view, and access roads to the site, constructability, telecommunications, and other system requirements. So we had a larger list of issues that had to be met, and we searched then for another site and proposed a different site. This is an illustration, it's not to be read, but if you take a look at those lines, you'll see what happens during decision meetings to an initially ranked set of alternatives. Just quantitatively, from the very left, our sites are ordered and colored and so on, and they are carried forward to the next decision meeting. Whoops, we have an unwilling seller. Well, we don't want to go there then. We'll just rule that one out. That one drops out, and we have new information. Then we start adding routes. You know, a substation without routes doesn't function. It has to be connected to a source line. So now we add routes, and our substation sites don't rank as well. So they sort out over a series of meetings. This happens to be for a substation combined with the routes, and ultimately there are 3 pools of sites. One that's going to be carried forward, preferred in 2 alternates, some that are in a secondary pool. We don't throw that away. We don't really say they're eliminated. We may have to come back to them someday in the future. We've also been building this decision support software that is my 3rd example. The last example was done with Excel spreadsheets, adding it all up. But we just recently finished a project that had 40 segments in a transmission line that made up about 10 alternative routes. This program was developed with California Energy Commission funding over the period from 2006 to 2008, and we were the technical lead for that project. This gives you some nice visual images of what that software will do for you, showing you can view your results in map form, in chart form, and in table form. So this was a substation project, and we had 15 alternatives. A high bar was not good. We screened first for electrical needs. Then we looked at each of the disciplinary areas, or each of the issues that contributed to a different site overall score, and we want a low bar for that. So we might easily pick one of those middle sites as one of the better ones, but from each discipline, you might not have the same rank order. So a lot of discussion takes place. In this case, the sites that are not so good for engineering, even though they're feasible, are much better for aesthetics. So this gives you very quick, with a few buttons to push, you can change your assumptions and see the results. Decision making is where it's almost all blue in my text here, and much of this is than our subjective or our qualitative process. And I might add, one of the reasons that I care about this is that I hire people to help do this. And the people who have quantitative skills are not necessarily the same people who have facilitation skills, team building skills, or decision-making support skills. So our job now is to make a choice among those alternatives, explain that decision process, and accommodate management interests at the same time. So before a full team meeting, we have to really comb through that data. We don't find anybody else on the team is really interested in anything other than their own discipline. Our job, though, is to pull it all together and understand it really well. We have a new step in our process, and that's a strategy session with those who haven't been as involved before now. That's with our law department and our regulatory people, so they understand what's coming. And one of the major tasks in a decision meeting is not to try to cope with all of it at once, but to subset that project into manageable pieces. We found you can't keep people in a room more than 2 hours, and they won't be forced into a decision that they're not ready to make. So we have to put it into chunks. During those full team meetings, we have discussion guides, we use facilitation techniques, and if necessary, conflict management. I have, I think, 2 slides left just to indicate that it takes a full toolkit, not just all those numbers and all those models, which take a long time to develop, but it does take a lot of skill in team building and decision making, and we've tried to build that into our work. So both aspects of the toolkit are necessary to manage those technical challenges and those surprises that do come up in your study area, but also to manage organizational challenges. Your different departments are going to have different agendas, and teams membership can change over time. We always have resource and schedule constraints. But we're also managing those decision challenges. They have to be defensible. We want those values to be explicit, capture scenarios and alternatives, and be able to document the results. And we have to have ways to communicate. Obviously, some of the new technical tools facilitate communication. If they're web-based, people who are in remote offices can look in on the process. But it's also, for the rest of us, a learning environment. Everybody is learning about that project in the course of the work. We have a project alternatives map. Ultimately, everything is blessed. We have 2 substation sites and 2 routes. You can't see the details, but ultimately we have a very nice map that doesn't show all of the effort that went through before then. So thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you very much, Mary. I think it was a very interesting, comprehensive presentation. We have time for one quick question.
Yeah, I was curious as to how your software and the analysis that you did, how that fits into the NEPA-CEQA process. So is this done before NEPA-CEQA?
Yes.
Or it is?
It is, but many of our factors are CEQA and NEPA factors. All the environmental concerns are the same ones. We've tried to parallel that process. But in siting, we also take into account all the feasibility and business requirements as well. Our sites have to be big enough, they have to be the right shape, they have to be close enough. That's not part of CEQA and NEPA. Presumably you iron all that out during the stage in which we're operating.
So you're more like this software basically selects alternatives that are the most feasible to be analyzed under CEQA and NEPA?
The software simply shows you what you input and what the consequences are applying those factors and the judgments that come in from the field work. So you get results for whatever you put in. You could put in your top 3 if you wanted. You could put in the 20 or 30 you started with and assess those as well. We're using it at the early stages to take that 30 down to 3. And a subset of those factors are the CEQA and NEPA factors.